It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Musical Lyrical Lingo. We're your hosts, Tim
and LJ. Today and every week we will be discussing musicals, but specifically what they taught us.
Do you remember what you're saying? That's what Lauren literally just said to me before we went live. Do you remember what you're saying?
Well, it's been a lot of weeks where you're like, hold that up so I can read it because I still don't know what it is I'm saying.
Some things take me a long time to get, but once I get them, I never lose them, baby.
Okay.
How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good.
Has it?
Yeah.
I don't believe you by the way you just said that.
No, it has. It's just busy. You forget how busy things are whenever it's back to school, work. I mean, I detest doing school lunches and breaks and all of that malarkey. Like, it's
Do you
really
not send them to school dinners?
Well, I have one fussy child and one not so fussy child.
Yeah.
But yeah, the youngest has been going to school dinners.
The price of school dinners, it was mental.
I know, and here I compared it to, so CJ started big school now, and I got through the canteen list. Not that she'll eat the school dinners part, but she'll eat like what the canteen has to offer.
There's always so much more of a choice, isn't it? Like,
a full dinner, like a full dinner with meat and veg, is £2.20.
Is that not much cheaper than the primary schools?
Primary school's like $2.70 a dinner.
Yeah.
No, you get dessert and all with that. So really, it's not that bad.
I don't know. I don't really have them. Don't really take
Do you
them.
not get like wee sneaky if there's leftovers or anything?
No, if we want a dinner, we have to pay for it. Like, yeah, no, it's not like a wee, here you go. No, it doesn't work like that, I'm afraid.
Oh, see, I was working in some schools last year, and whenever the students didn't come in, we got to have the dinners.
That's the dream. No, I don't live that dream, unfortunately.
Well,
yeah, there we go.
There you go. Well, yeah, what about you? How's the gym?
I'm so glad you asked me about my week. My week's been bloody awful. We had Bank Holiday Monday on Monday, and I got stung by a wasp.
Did you?
And I realised when it happened, I've actually never been stung by a wasp as an adult. The last time I was stung by a wasp, I was a child. So
it's sore.
It's really sore. And I went into the chemist and I was like, I've just been stung by a wasp. I've never been stung by a wasp as an adult. And they literally looked at me like, you need to chill out.
That is hilarious because whenever I got stung by a wasp, it was a few years ago because I was pushing a pram and didn't realise the wasp was on the pram.
Yeah, well, I didn't realise.
I went into Boots and said exactly the same thing and I was like, I could be allergic to this. So I'm so glad you're just as dramatic.
No, literally the girl looked at me and was like, here's some cream, put it on it. And I was like, oh, is that all? Like, is that all I have? I was like, is the stinger out? Is the stinger I had just come out and given my hair cut and was brushing it was actually this hoodie I was in. I was brushing like the hairs off my hoodie and it got me the wee blighter. And do you know what? I was always an ally of the wasps. I was always telling kids in school, leave it alone. If you don't bother it, it won't bother you. I did not bother that wasp and it stung me. So I have a one-man vendetta out against all wasps.
All wasps.
God help them.
That's a bit dramatic.
No, I'm telling you now, I have no time for them.
All wasps.
That's it. I will actively squash them.
Well, I think...
Please don't come for me, all you, like, eco-warrior people out there.
I was going to say, I think I'm going to bet on the wasps rather than betting on you. I think that's a wee bit ridiculous.
Bite me. Anyway, but you know what? It makes me feel better because I came in here tonight and I've got a new chair.
I know.
Listeners.
I know.
You're spoiling me.
Well, it's
not actually for me, is it?
Well, it wasn't bought personally, like, just specifically for you. Aaron bought a new chair, but he did say, this can be for Timothy.
See, Aaron's always looking out for my best interests.
He is.
He's a good boy.
I know.
Anyway, let's get moving because we can't be faffing around with like 20 minutes of a tangent this week because we have a special guest.
I know. And it's actually really exciting and a lovely one for the podcast because it's a little bit different, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was really, really good fun. We met up and had a great chat with Aaron Butler, a local comedian who is a very funny guy.
Hilarious.
So we'll bring that chat to you later on in the podcast.
Yeah.
So we did talk to him briefly about our musical this week as well, which is
Little shop of horrors, little shop of terrors.
What's the next line?
I don't know.
See, nobody ever knows the third line. We always know the first. You know the first two, and then when you get to the third line, you're like, watch them drop or something. I don't know what it is. I don't know either. Like I was just, oh my goodness, the arms move in this chair.
I know.
I'm past myself. I feel like Audrey II, the big plant puppet in the big chair. Like feel very important. Well, do you have any background then for our little shop then?
So, Little Shop of Horrors is a horror comedy rock musical, which I don't think I ever got that it's a rock musical.
Are you joking me? The music?
I know. It's definitely not.
Especially the plant songs are all like rocky.
Well, I just didn't really get that it was... Anyway.
And you're a rocker too.
I know. I
music?
think maybe I just was thinking it was... anyway. It's all right. Music and lyrics are by Alan Menken.
Menken.
I learnt.
Menken.
That's
not Menken.
Oh, am I still saying it wrong?
Menken.
Menken.
There you go.
Okay. And book by Howard Ashman.
Howard.
That's how I say it, all right? There are Disney favourites who, as we know... wrote the music for Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and all that.
But it just blows my mind that he wrote Little Shop of Horrors.
I know.
As well as, like, because it's so Disney, his Disney stuff is so Disney.
I know.
And then you've got Little Shop of Horrors, which is so different for him.
I know. And also, like, this was in between some of those Disney. So it wasn't like he went and did Disney and then was like, oh, I'm going to do this, or did this and then moved into Disney. Like, this is just, I actually think he's fab.
He is so talented.
Yeah,
like,
so.
He composed this score in the style of the early 1960s rock and roll doo-wop. I don't know what doo-wop is.
Well,
an early Motown.
Yeah.
Doo-wop.
Yeah.
And there's quite a lot of those, really. But I didn't know that was a musical style.
No, neither did I. So the story follows Seymour, a loser florist who works as a shop worker, and he finds and raises a plant who feeds on human blood and flesh.
Yeah. I mean, if it was a film, not like with the musical aspect to it, I wouldn't be watching it because it's too scary for me.
It is loosely based on a 1960s black comedy film called Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, there you go.
But yes, I think the music, the way each of the characters are developed, it means it's not like a Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
It's not that dark. You can watch it. You know that, its plant is feeding on people. But there's not that darkness to it, or it doesn't. I've talked about it before. There's certain musicals that makes me feel uneasy. This one doesn't make me feel uneasy.
When he's feeding different characters to the plant, you don't feel uneasy about it.
No.
Says more about you, Lauren, than anything else.
So it did open in 1982.
Yeah.
And then the West End in 1983, but then it was 2003 before it was back on Broadway.
Yeah, and what was really interesting when it opened in 1982, it was off Broadway.
I know.
So right down into the wee side streets, before it opened in off Broadway and then moved to off Broadway, where it enjoyed a 5-year run initially. Yeah. I mean, you don't hear of too many hit musicals that started in off Broadway.
No.
You may as well be in the local church hall.
I think it's a bit like Audrey II plant. It's a grower.
Oh, see what you did there.
I know. Yeah. Also, so the film came out in 1986, but did you know that it was released in the UK on the 27th of March 1987, which is the day before I was born? I just wanted to put that in there. Anyway, so the film was made in 1986.
It's all about me.
It's all about me. It was directed by Frank Oz, who... Yeah.
I don't know much about him, but...
you do.
Oh dear.
Well, Frank Oz, he is the voice of Yoda in the Star Wars.
I don't do Star Wars, you know this.
But he is also... Frank Oz was involved in all the Muppets.
Ah, okay. So I should really know a lot about Frank Oz.
That Muppet style. And whenever you see that, you kind of go, oh, that... If you know the film.
Yeah, well, certainly the puppetry with regards to the plant and stuff like that would have been right up his alley.
Yeah.
Or Skid Row, as they say.
Yeah. It didn't win any major awards, or it hasn't won any major awards, apart from Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Musical and a Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Lyrics. And
that must be one of the first musicals we've talked about on the podcast that hasn't walked away with a Tony or Olivier.
Or at least been nominated.
Or nominated, yeah, you're right.
I think it won a Grammy, or... something for the soundtrack.
For the soundtrack?
Yeah, it might have.
Okay.
But yeah.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. It's one I enjoy, but it's not like I don't rush to the theatre to see it, but I also don't detest it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like in that middle road for musicals for me. I've never done it. I've never been involved either in a production or been part of a creative team for it. So, yeah, it's... And I see it every maybe 8-9 years. Do you know what I mean? It's not a regular one for me. But I mean, it's enjoyable.
I do like it.
The music's great.
Yeah, I think the music does hold it. I think that 1986 film is great, and I think that's why a lot of people will know it. Yeah, and that they're not very different. Yeah, you know, the stage show to the film, but. There's some very dark elements in it, and I think certainly whenever I was introduced to it, I was young.
Okay, right, okay.
Whenever it would have constantly been on, we had it on film, then we had it on DVD. My kids now love it. So the soundtrack has been played a lot in our house.
It's strange. It's one of those ones that I can't remember when I first came across it. Do you know what I mean? I can't remember the moment I listened to the soundtrack for the first time or went to see it. Do you know what I mean? I can't overly remember. Is it in Broadway off Broadway at the moment?
Off Broadway at the moment, yeah.
And they did a soundtrack for that New York Broadway production, didn't they? The first cast.
I think right now, like as of today, I think it was only released a couple of days ago, that there's been a third cast change. Mm-hmm.
This is happening more and more at the moment with musicals. Like, why? Why are there so many cast changes for the same production?
I don't...
Is it to keep it fresh? Is it to keep audiences fresh? Like, is it that the actors that they... Because, like, there's big names, actually, in this production that maybe they can only contract them for so long because they have other commitments or something. I don't know. Because, like, Jonathan Groff...
I know.
What's his name? I
know, I can picture him.
Something Jordan... That's really... Jeremy Jordan.
Jeremy Jordan.
Like, they're two of the names that have played the Seymour in this current production. Yeah. Like, and I'm going, okay, they are both, like, massive Broadway high hitters, yeah.
And, like, Maud Apatow, I can't say that name, she came off it to go and star as Sally Ann Bowles in Chicago in West End.
Yeah, because that's the show I'm thinking of these like constant cast changes. Because every time they release the cast, I haven't seen Cabaret yet. Okay. And I am dying to see it because I just think, and I also think it has been really revamped, and I think it's right up my street. Yeah. But every time they announce a new cast change, I'm like, oh, I would love to see those two playing it. And then they're hardly in it for like a couple of weeks, and then it's somebody new, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to see them too, but I didn't see the last pair. It's really annoying.
I wonder, is it to keep? I don't think it's to keep it fresh. It's maybe it is just a contract thing. But anyway, So it's got the third sort of cast in. Off Broadway.
Well, it's a really good cast recording of it.
It is. Yeah, I was actually re-listening to it today.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Well, we do our musical lyrical lingo then for Little Shop of Horrors. So
go for it.
I'm going to start with Skid Row. Mm-hmm. Shang-a-lang, feel the strum and drang in the air. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. I didn't know what strum and drang was.
No.
Even, this is ridiculous, even now that I've like looked into it and researched it, still I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it refers to a turbulent emotion or stress. I get that bit.
Okay.
Right? But it has a weird link back to 18th century German literature, or an artistic movement that happened in Germany in the 18th century, where this strum and drang like kind of phrase was coined, or was come up, it came up or something, or it was named,
was created, a movement started.
But a bit random that something from the 18th century is quoted in by Howard Ashman. And then in the same number, Skid Row, they sing about where the hopheads flop in the snow. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that hopheads actually mean drug addicts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Skid Row's all about, like...
Down and outs.
And, not very nice places.
Yeah.
In America. It also one of the lyrics says, where the guys are Oh, yeah. So, Audrey sings in the number where the guys are drips, where they rip your... Slips. And I didn't know what slips were.
You're like undergarment.
Yeah, I didn't realise that was a woman's undergarment.
They're not very common now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would wear a slip under a dress.
And then where depression's just status quo.
Yeah.
I only knew status quo as like the band.
Oh,
status quo.
okay.
I didn't realise that it was a Latin phrase meaning existing state of affairs, like the current social structure or how society is.
Yeah. I think that's why status quo are called status quo, because they were...
Very, very possible. I mean, I wouldn't be a biggest fan of Status Quo, the band. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
What about you?
Yeah, I think terrazzo or something. It's mentioned in Skid Row, and it's just about, it means the floor, but we'll move on from that.
Oh, it is, no.
It's like a floor with chips of marble and polished.
Yeah.
And then shine, but it didn't make sense to me why it was in the middle. I think it's just about he's sweeping the floor.
Yeah.
And he just mentions that.
Yeah.
Like but anyway. See for Grow for me.
Yeah.
Where he's like, Seymour is singing to the plant. So the plant just sort of like appears one day.
In the shop,
he then buys it. He walks past and he buys it for $1.90, or there is like a thing.
Yeah.
And so the plant isn't. And it says, I've even given you potash. Well, I thought he just didn't know how to say potato.
So why would you feed a plant potato, Lauren?
Well, I'm not a gardener. So I wasn't too sure.
Fair enough.
But potash is actually plant food that has various mined salts, including potassium in it.
Yeah. Well, clearly I'm not a gardener either.
But your daddy is.
He very much so. He's just got the front and back garden redone. In the same number, there's another lyric where it says, "I've given you southern exposure to get you to thrive."
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know that was a thing. And I did look it up, thinking they've just made that up, like they've just made that line up. But actually, a south-facing window is an excellent place to keep your indoor plants, folks.
Yep.
Do you know, most of our listeners probably know that already. That's why I can't keep my orchid alive.
That's why that one sitting on the table is nearly dead.
Actually, you're right. I'm sitting in Lauren's house in my brand new chair, which isn't mine, it's Aaron's, but I'm loving it. And I'm looking at a plant that truly... There's only one good place for that plant, and it's the bin.
And it used to be beautiful.
It used to be beautiful. I mean, the leaves are A patchwork of brown.
Well, anyway, that's my plan.
So,
Southern exposure, I got that too. I thought he was being rude. I thought he was talking about flashing. It was only whenever I was like, oh no, it means sunlight.
That's probably because in literally every production I have seen of Little Shop, you see in Skid Row, they always put a flasher in who is walking with like a wee trench coat or a wee duffel coat on, and then at one point they turn upstage and open their coat. Maybe that's where you're getting flasher from.
But I was like, I've even given you Southern exposure. I was like, oh, he's just flashed the plant.
I wish I'd known about the Southern exposure. I could have kept my first orchid alive. Now I have my second orchid and it's actually thriving. Southern exposure. Well, they say with the orchids to not put them in direct sunlight, but I've put my second orchid in my bay window and it is honestly thriving. And then I've got a certain person that anytime they visit my flat, flick it to try and get the petals to fall off, but it's not working. Yeah. Thriving it is.
Thriving.
So there we go.
There we go.
Gardeners out there.
Did you have anything else in Grow For Me?
Well, one of my favourite, not for Grow For Me, no.
Oh, right. Well, that's okay.
One of my favourite songs is Somewhere That's Green.
Oh, yeah. I had stuff for that too.
Audrey, our like female lead, who, bless her, she's in a relationship with an abusive boyfriend. Yeah. And Seymour just really loves him. And she secretly loves Seymour too. And see us start talking like her there. She sings a song about like her ideal like life, her ideal dream, and she just wants to live somewhere that's green. Yeah. She sings about I am dating a semi-sadist. Now remember in a previous episode, I couldn't remember the word given to someone who obtains a pleasure through inflicting pain on others. Yep. It was sadist. The word I was looking for was sadist, and it popped up in this episode.
I know. And that actually comes from, so if we then jump forward to the dentist song.
Yeah.
And he mentions Marcus de Sade. Mm-hmm. I'm not great with French. He was a French nobleman and a politician and a philosopher. He wrote literally depictions of libertine sexual whatever. And
what?
But he was accused of a lot of sex crimes.
This episode's taken a blooming turn here.
Like, there's a saying or something that he did or something about where he beat the maid and then I don't know, had an orgy with like other people. Yeah, so it's
you are still listening to Musical Lyrical Lingo, folks.
But that's where the word sadism and sadist comes from. It's from his name. Oh. And that's mentioned in
the dentist song where he's talking about how he enjoys the pain he inflicts on his clients when they come.
She sings about him being a semi-sadist.
I'm dating a semi-sadist. That was not in tune. I do apologise for all those musical theatre fans out there who are going, he can't sing.
Did you know who Betty Crocker was?
I didn't know who Betty... I cook like Betty Crocker and I look like Donna Reed. Yeah. Didn't know who either of them were.
So I actually didn't realise Betty Crocker is a fictional character. I thought Betty Crocker was maybe, like... a Nigella or something, you know, and then just had a range. But no, it is a fictional character.
So she was, it was a brand and fictional character used in advertising campaigns.
But you can still
for food and recipes.
Still get her box.
So is it Betty Crocker's Yorkshire puddings? Is that the Betty Crocker?
No, you're thinking of Aunt Bessie.
Oh, okay.
Betty Crocker is like your buttercream. Do you know if you don't really bake? I was going to say you don't bake. You're like buttercream and you can get like box cupcakes or box cake. Yeah. It's like red. That's Betty Crocker.
Okay. And because she was like the face for answering baking questions at the time. Yeah. And was a name associated with being a perfect homemaker.
Yes.
Betty
and then
Crocker.
Donna Reed was a US actress.
That's right.
But she only died in 1986, so it's interesting that they reference her and she died in 1986.
Yeah, well, I mean, her career spanned over 40 years with performances in more than 40 films. Like, I think she was up there with being really successful.
And one of her famous films was It's a Wonderful Life.
She was in that. It.
Oh, you'll need to watch that at Christmas.
Yeah. I didn't know what a December Bride was. So in in Somewhere That's Green, Audrey sings about, I'm his December bride. And a December bride is a woman who marries later in life.
Oh,
which
I
is
didn't
really
know
cute.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought she wanted to get married in December.
Me too. That's what sorry, I just like literally thumped you there.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Now, I think we've got a few of the same ones because I've just seen a glance at your notebook. She sings loads about like what she wants to do. Like, so she wants to snuggle watching Lucy on an enormous 12-inch screen.
Enormous.
Did you know who Lucy was?
Yeah, I Love Lucy.
So you did know that?
Yeah.
So what is I Love Lucy?
I Love
for anyone
Lucy
like
was
me who doesn't
very
know?
famous TV sitcom show in America. Particularly, it was black and white, but Lucy was the main character, but she was obviously female, so that was a wee bit, not controversy, but just it wasn't really the done thing where the main. And it was set in like the 50s, I think I'm right in saying. And yeah, so, and even nowadays, still super popular. There's like, I think, is it in Universal? There's like a whole museum dedicated to like I Love Lucy.
Oh wow, so it was huge, like
massive, and really quite funny. She was a real like slapstick sort of comedian. It's obviously still of the time where whenever, actually one episode I read about that recently where Lucy finds out she's pregnant, but they weren't allowed to mention pregnancy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, they wouldn't even have allowed the husband and wife to be shown sleeping in the same bed. Yeah. You know, it was that sort of era. But yeah, Lucy was a famous show.
I presume, because there's another lyric where she sings the kids watch Howdy Doody. Yeah. So I presume was Howdy Doody also a big like kids TV show?
American TV show. A bit creepy.
Oh, is that right?
Well, I looked it up. I knew it was a kids' TV show, but I looked up kind of what it was about. It was a man who had a puppet, but if you go Google the puppet would give you nightmares. Yeah. But it was very popular.
There you go. And then she mentions pine sole scented air, which was like a cleaning product. Yeah. Created in 1929. Yeah. So there was lots there, actually, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was all I had. But
yeah, I have some fun facts.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I love Ellen Green, who was Audrey.
Yes.
She's really...
Movie.
She's real. Well, this is my fun fact. Oh. She's really unique in how she sounds, isn't she?
Yes.
And like she puts on, like she talks a bit like this. And I thought it was a voice that she put on for the character, but I think that's actually how Ellen Green talks.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. And you're right, she was in the movie, but she also was the original Audrey in Off-Broadway and also the original Audrey when it came to the West End. So I don't think that's been done very often, where the same actress played the same role in Broadway, in West End, and then in film.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that really cool? And then we talked about the genius Alan Menken, who is Disney. Yeah. And when we did a Disney episode, we were talking about one of his, Little Mermaid. So, do you know that Part of Your World, the Ariel song, is actually inspired and influenced heavily by Somewhere That's Green?
Oh, okay.
Because Alan Menken calls it the I Want song.
Yes.
Like, because both Part of Your World and Somewhere That's Green is the characters singing about what they want, what they're longing for, right? And Menken said that they used to jokingly call it Somewhere That's Wet.
Oh.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, well, here, we've spoken about it before. So I suppose these are my connections to Little Shop of Horrors, but Suddenly Seymour is the song which is sung between Audrey and Seymour.
Yeah.
And it's kind of at the end where they're like, yes, we're in love with each other. Well, not really at the end, it's not the very end, but anyway. Do you remember your favourite show, Hey Mr. Producer?
Yeah.
Do you remember her performing it on that though?
Yeah.
She kind of is it's a bit over the top on it.
But I think that was her.
So Caitlin and I,
That's why I did that.
used to take the mick out of that all the time. I used to rewind back just to watch it, and she does. She says,
and she opens her mouth like she's a big, wide mouth.
Yeah,
I take nothing away from her because I think she's
I think she is a very good Audrey, but that
like,
part makes me.
I know she was the original Audrey, but it's one of those characters that you see other people doing it, but you're like, but just not Ellen Green. At least that's certainly how I...
Yes,
like,
I
she's
get it.
so... Because she was the original, she totally owned it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Whereas a lot of originals you can have, like, other actresses that come after and play it, and you're like, oh, they were really good, like, they were just as good, or they were different, but... I think, like, Audrey and Ellen Green, like, she just has such... like, what's that word? Like ownership over that role. Do you know what I mean? But
I agree. Do you know the song Mean Green Mother? It's not in the stage show. It's just...
I couldn't remember which one it wasn't in.
Well, so it's not in the stage. It's in the movie.
Yeah. The stage show's lacking because of it then. I love that song.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, I wonder why they haven't, I suppose, in these new ones, they haven't put it in, because it's a great song. The Mean Green Mother from outer space and I'm bad.
It just must be a rights thing. It's probably a huge amount of money that they would have to pay to use it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very strange. Anyway, that song was used in my very first show that I was ever in, which was Wizard of Oz in stage school.
Oh, right, okay.
So the witch
sang it,
and then last year, whenever it was stage school, and I was down for rehearsals, and they were rehearsing that song, I swear I was 4 years old again.
Yeah,
because I hadn't heard it done the way it was done.
Back to you, did it?
Obviously, I've watched the movie and stuff, so I have heard the song, but just a girl singing it on stage, you know, like, and I was like, and I actually turned around to Sharon and was like, that was it, and she was like, oh, I know. Yeah.
Well, you said it brought flashbacks when you went into stage school recently. That's the only link I have to it, that we did a wee section in stage school a year or two ago, which was really I enjoyed it. Like I did enjoy it, and I would love to give it a go, like, you know, choreographing it as a whole show, but that's the only links I have to it.
Yeah, and no, and because of that, which just this is another example of how you just don't know how you're going to hook somebody into musical theatre. So my youngest, that was his first show in stage school, and he was watching it and he fell in love with Little Shop of Horrors, and we have watched that movie so many times, and the soundtrack is on his favourites on his Alexa. And it's just on repeat. But all he's seen is a snippet, a couple of numbers. So it just shows you how powerful theatre is. It doesn't have to be always professional. It can be just something small, and you can grasp somebody, get their attention. Here, indeed. I think we're talking an awful lot. We probably should get our...
I think this is going to be a long episode, folks.
I know.
I think now's the time where we should really... introduce our special guest. So here is the conversation that we had with Aaron Butler. Enjoy. So let's introduce our guest today. So we're very fortunate to have Aaron Butler, local comedian. Aaron, how are we doing?
Guys, I'm doing great, and I think, you know, you're right. You are very fortunate, but I'm also very fortunate. I'm also very fortunate that you asked me to do this, but let's not lose sight of how big a deal this is. You know, that's what I want to say. Let's make sure we make a big deal of me being here.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, if we had been in person, the red carpet would have been rolled out.
It would have had to.
Yeah. The stage lights, the spotlight would have been very much on you, Aaron.
That's what I like to hear. This is I'm so used to doing podcasts in person now that I feel like I went back in time to the pandemic, and I'm now getting like Vietnam style flashbacks of having to connect to Zoom and
you're starting to sweat a wee bit there.
Yeah, it's making me freak out a little bit. I'm like, is it happening again? Is COVID back again? But look, I think this will be a way for me to just ease that tension and realize that everything's okay again. Okay, so
well, the best way to do that surely is to talk about musical theatre, right?
It fixes everything, doesn't it? You know, if you're ever feeling down in life, you're ever like getting stressed out, just stick Hamilton on or something, and life's problems, your mortgage will pay itself. Your parents will like you again. Like, things will really start happening if you just watch a musical, is what I find.
When did you first get involved in musical theatre then?
Do you know, it's weird. I was quite late to the game. Like, I always liked movie musicals, you know, the usual ones like Grease and, Dirty Dancing, Footloose and all these sort of ones. And then it was probably only when I was like 19, 20 is when I sort of learned, like, oh, you know, West End is a thing and Broadway is a thing, and you've got all these shows and it's like a whole different environment. And then I started like just listening to soundtracks because I got real into it. And then it kind of just took off from there. Now I'm still listening to the soundtracks.
And you've tread the boards as well, haven't you? Like, other than comedy, you've done musical theatre, haven't
Pretty sure it was a little West Side Story you appeared in not so long ago.
Here, fingers clicking and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and my back clicking because I'm 34 years old now. I probably shouldn't be in West Side Story, but look, in Belfast musical theatre, I'm still about 12 years old, I think. I can still, if I moisturise on the right day, I can just about be a T-bird. But yeah, I did West Side Story last year. I did Grease many years ago. I did...
Well, I was going to say about, with regards to T-bird, that's when I saw you on stage for the first time. Were you Knicky?
As Kaneki, and that was like the last show I did for a long time. Like, I wasn't doing comedy, and I had did loads of other shows before that, and I got to a point where I think I just sickened myself or burnt myself out from being on stage, and I was like, I think I'm done with this. I'm happy enough with whatever I've achieved or tried to do. I need to do something real now. And so I took a break for a long time, and then I ended up coming back to comedy, and then ever since I've just been flat out gigging. I did my solo show this year. I filmed my first special this year that's coming out later on in October, November time. And then I went back to musicals last year with Ulcer Operatic, did West Side Story. So it's been good to sort of have the break, but then I appreciate it more now that I've come back to it and now that I get older. But yeah, I've always enjoyed performing, entertaining, having fun. Meeting new friends is a great reason to do it as well. Just, people like you, people like all the other people who are involved in that. They're all such lovely, nice, welcoming, fun people and from different backgrounds, and you learn more and you get to know people better. And yeah, I've always enjoyed. I enjoy the environment. I enjoy the camaraderie. I enjoy the teamwork aspect of it all, being involved in something. There's a lot of positives to doing a show.
And Deep Pete always solves the aching muscles, right?
Or listen to our Into the Woods episode. Timothy got some uddermint.
Have you ever heard of this, uddermint?
So not until last year, when I was doing West Side, everyone was raving about it, and it smells like minty, right? I think I've definitely smelled it. Yeah, it's got a strong, poignant smell, and it's meant to be like Deep Heat times 10. But I never had to use it, thankfully.
But it is meant to be used on animals. It's supposed to be used on cows' udders. Like, it is an agricultural product, but humans have just stolen it.
And probably musical theatre people have stolen it.
Yeah, very much. I mean, it helps with my aching muscles, that's for sure.
Yeah. I always live by the motto, if it's good for a cow's udder, it's probably good for me. I think it's the best way to approach any substance and cream in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When you get into your 30s and you're still prancing about the stage, sometimes every little helps, right?
Yeah, you do sort of have this turmoil in your head where you go, at what age do I stop, acting this camp? And for me, it's never.
No. Me too, right?
Yeah.
What is it about, what are you looking for in a musical then that drags you back onto stage? You said you'd had your wee breaks and every so often you get enticed back in. What is it that entices you in?
Yeah, number one, it's the challenge, because I wasn't a musical theatre kid. I was never trained in dance. I was never trained in any of that sort of stuff. And number one, it is the challenge of doing it. And then, the hard work that goes into it throughout the whole rehearsal process. And then you get that big reward at the end when you do the show. I think there's just something really, there's a lot of things you can take away for your actual life from a musical that really applies. And I really, really enjoy. The second one is, I just think it's fun. You know, often on stage, the stuff I do when it comes to comedy, sometimes that can be a little bit stressful. It can be tough. You can be gigging in a bar somewhere in the middle of flipping, you know, Portaferry or whatever, and there's like 4 people and you don't know what's going on. And so I like that you have support there. You have a cast there. You have a team there. You're not just on stage on your own. You're there with other people who are helping you, supporting you for a scene, for a song, whatever it may be. And then number 3, I think we all go through life with these stresses and anxieties, and we all have regular jobs and we work and we've all these different things. We're trying to remain social, you know, maintain a good work-life balance and all this sort of carry on. And I think musicals are just a great way to escape that reality for a little bit and just almost like a meditative type state where you don't look at your phone, you don't think of anything other external. You're just like focused on whatever rehearsal you're doing or the show that you're doing. And I think that's good for your mind, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite musical? What's your favourite musical?
I'm torn. Like, it's like, it always will change every now and then. But currently, like, if I was to say like a modern day musical, and what I mean is like in the last like 10, 15 years or whatever, you know, I think it's hard to look past the Book of Mormon and Hamilton right now. I think they're probably 2 of the best written, performed, you know, executed shows in a long, long time. But I love the classics. I love like Phantom and Les Mis and things like that. But I think they've had their day, and, you know, you can put them in the past. They were good for their time. But look, in terms of the musical that I'm huge for nostalgia. If it's nostalgic, I absolutely fall in love with it. And I remember from the age of 3 years old, the first movie I ever watched was Grease. So like to watch that musical, to be in that musical, I just think I have a real connection. I love the 50s. I love the dancing and the style and the clothing and everything. So if I had to live with one musical for the rest of my life, it's probably Grease. Slowly followed by Grease 2 after that.
Oh, Grease 2 is definitely better than Grease. We did a podcast with my sister and her partner because they were in Grease, and we actually towards the end, but we're like, it's an okay musical, but we need to talk about Grease 2 because it is far superior. It really is. Like a cool writer, I often climb a ladder and sing that song.
That's you might be reported for that, if I'm being honest. I don't know if I'm comfortable continuing on doing this, knowing that now. But
reported for many a worse thing, let me tell you.
Yeah. Oh, she's climbed up a few ladders in her day. Here's the thing. Yeah, Grease, the show itself as a musical isn't that great. The movie's way superior. The movie got it completely right. The show itself's a wee bit bleh if you see it on stage. Grease 2, I think they tried to adapt it in the stage show at a certain point, but it never quite took off. But again, I think there's some great songs in there, like Let's Do It For Our Country, Score Tonight, Reproduction is like one of the funniest numbers I've ever seen. It's if anyone's never checked it out, it's a cult classic. I think it's well worth the watch.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite musical you've been in then?
Yeah. I mean, look.
Without offending any companies out there.
Yeah.
No. Oh, look. Here's the thing. I'm long out of the game. You can't. I fucking. You know. What are you gonna do? Not let me. My favorite show I ever done was the 2013 Grace of Ulster Operatic, just because I think that was such a, like, my mum was so proud of that one. And I think just because she was so proud, I was like, you know, that really meant something to me. I felt something doing that one. But I've loved them all. Like, there's no show I've ever done that I've went, oh, that was, you know, hated that or whatever. You know, I've really have. Even ones that maybe, you know, you would think are a little bit like, oh, that's a bit lackluster, maybe not as exciting, or, you know, I just think it's all about the people that you do it with, and the people who do these shows are, you know, great people. And so, yeah, I've always enjoyed them. But Grease 2013, that's the one that'll always stand out in my mind, I think, is a real proud moment.
Yeah. Well, if you were to go on stage next week in another musical playing a part, what's on your wish list there, Aaron? Like, what's next for Aaron Butler with regards to setting the boards?
Do you know, that's the funny thing. Like, I'm at that weird point, right, where I'm at that age where I think I'm probably too old to play some of these teenage parts, but I'm not old enough to play some of these more adult parts. So I think I have to look at more character type roles. Some character type roles I really like. You know, I really like King Herod in Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm trying to think of some other good examples. I would like to, I know we're going to talk about Little Shop of Horrors in a minute. I think the dentist from Little Shop is a great part.
That'd be perfect for you.
That's what I was just going to say. I think there's a part in the musical that we're going to talk about that you could do with a real twist to it.
Yeah.
Hey, all the parts in Little Shop.
Not Audrey.
Hey, give it sure.
I think you'd make a great Audrey. I really do. I would pay to watch that one. So I'm at that sort of weird point. If I was to step on stage next week, I mean, you automatically, I'm in a real conflict because you go, well, what's a realistic role for me? But then what's a dream role for me that's maybe not realistic? You know what I mean? I auditioned for the Book of Mormon on West End in 2012, which was an insane time in my life. And so I always loved the role of Elder McKinley. I think there's a lot of meat in that role, and there's a lot of like comedic value there. And the role has, all these twists and turns, and there's, he's trying to fight with these morals that he's up against, but he's doing it in a funny way. And I just think, I think that would be a weird, really, it's very cheesy as well. And I think it's a good suited role for me. So if I could do that next week, I'd do that because it's a bit of fun. It's not too serious. And fun is what it's really all about for me.
And what was that audition process or experience like auditioning for Book of Mormon? It's such a juggernaut of a musical.
Yeah, and you have to remember, this is before it was even on West End. This was for the first ever West End cast. So they, it was they were pulling no punches. By the way, before I continue, am I allowed to curse on this, or would that be bad?
You can curse, whatever.
Yeah.
We don't, but you work away.
Yeah. Up the hoods. That's why I didn't get the part. I went in and just said that. But it was strange because I was a real outsider coming into that. Everyone who auditions for those is in London every single day, in and out doing these auditions, and they all know each other. They all, kiss and hug each other and all this sort of thing. And it's very a communal and they were really looking at me like, who the fuck is this fucking wee loser coming in from Belfast, Northern Ireland, the audition, which is fair enough. I can understand where they were coming from. And, I like the audition. The audition was not, not to put it down or say that it was easy or anything like that. Because look, the story ends with me not getting the part. So sorry to spoil it here, but I didn't do too great. But it also wasn't anything where I went, oh, this is crazy, crazy hard or whatever. Don't get me wrong. They really expect you to, they keep you on your toes, and it's very fast paced, and it's very go right now, but you have to just go for it. But it was kind of not that much different than learning a dance for the first time and rehearsing it and all that sort of stuff. So I do the dance. We did a tap number from the show, and then we did a regular sort of dance number from the show. They watched it, and then they just basically read out. And you have to remember, the way it works is it's those auditions are a numbers game. So they might audition 500 people that day. The percentage of the 500 people, they may take 10%. What's that, 50 people? So maybe one in every batch of people that audition during that day is going to go through to the next round. So it's your odds of going through are very, very difficult, especially when you consider they already have a look in mind. They already have a height in mind. They have a hair color in mind. So even if you're the most fucking talented person in the room, sometimes that doesn't go. Not saying I was, because I definitely wasn't, but sometimes that does go, and you have to sort of be real about it too. What I will say is great experience. Always good to put yourself out of your comfort zone, which is another reason why I recommend doing a musical and doing a show and doing something that you maybe have always wanted to do for a while. You might not be the most talented person in the room, but if your energy's good, if you're infectious, if you're willing to learn, you're willing to work really hard, I think those are great things to bring to the table. And look, I have no regrets about the experience. I absolutely have fond memories looking back on it. And when it finished that day, I had the biggest pizza in the world ever, because I was being so well behaved. I was eating nothing but vegetables and rice and keeping in shape and stuff. And then after that fucking tap number, I was find me the nearest Domino's Pizza Hut or whatever, and put it in a blender and shove it into my mouth right now. There was almost a feeling of relief when I did. I was thank fuck, because leading up to an audition like that, it's all you're thinking about. You're oh my god, each day you're practicing tap, you're doing this, you're thinking about that, you're thinking about songs. What if I sing? Can I sing this one? And it's takes over your life. But yeah, it was cool to say that I was able to audition for a West End show. That's for sure.
Yeah. So are you a tapper then? Are you a hoofer? A fellow hoofer has joined us this week.
Yeah. But like, look, I haven't did it in so many fucking years that like it would I would probably be pretty bad. I can still do my kickball changes and all that sort of carry on my T-hole steps. No, tap toe tap step. See what I mean? It's gone. It's absolutely gone.
I got there in the end.
I nearly got there in the end. The you don't use it, you lose it. You know. But yeah, no, I fucking absolutely love tap. I love people like Gene Kelly, and you know, I love all those old style movies. You know, Gene Kelly tap dancing rollerblades. That was always an inspiration watching that. I have such an appreciation for the art form and the innovation and just the fun that it is. But yeah, I tap a little bit, but I wouldn't. I haven't put the shoes on in a long, long time. They are underneath my stairs, but who knows? Maybe one day I'll break them out.
Yeah, you have to get them out every so often, like just to make sure those ankles are still working right.
I took a tap class in Crescent Arts Centre about 6 or 7 years ago, and I signed up to it going, this will be something, you know, this will be something good or whatever. And I go into the first day of the class. I was the youngest guy there at the age of like 26, 27, whatever it was. And the rest of the class was 60 and above, all women, all very deep into the menopause is the way I would put it. Like all very, like very, very deep into the process. And they would make sure that I was at the front of the line, and I was like, why do these old women want me to go to the front of the line? And then when I looked in the mirror, it was because they were all looking at my wee arse, right? And that's okay. That's okay, because look, I'm happy to give them a good few final years. I'm happy to send them
give them what they need to get through.
Look, girls, go into the light happy. You know what I mean? And that's what it's all about. So, yeah, it was... Look, if I'm going to be perved on, I'm happy it's by some 60-year-old ladies. Tell you that. That tells you a lot about me.
It's the fastest I'm sure they've ever shuffled, let me tell you.
I was the first fella to get Me Too'd. That is... That honestly, if those old ladies had a Twitter account, they were fucked. I was going to be a fan on them.
Is that why you didn't rush back then, Aaron? Yeah.
Oh no, I did the full 10 weeks. Even when the class stopped, I was still turning up like any ladies. Is anyone want a wee look or what's happening? They were like, Aaron, they're gone. So yeah, I do. I like every now and then I get like a little itch or a little urge to do like a dance. You know what's sad? I wish there was more like adult dance classes in Northern Ireland. There's like so few or far between, or like they're so hard to find. I just think it's really good for like your brain and your memory and just learning all the steps and physical. And yeah, so whoever's listening, do more adult, do an adult musical theatre class, someone, and I'll be the first one to turn up.
Yeah, we could maybe pull some strings and see if we can get that.
Yeah, that could be an idea. Like we branch off from the podcast line.
Getting it.
Aaron, you had mentioned Little Shop of Horrors earlier. So when we first spoke to you about being involved in the podcast, you were quite interested in being on this episode where we're talking about Little Shop of Horrors. Is there a reason for that, or?
Look. I'll say this about Little Shop of Horrors, and, you know, it's the same rule that I would apply to any musical that I say is very, very, very good, if not excellent, is that I think a good musical has elements of everything. And when I say that, I mean, you've got comedic elements in there, but you also have a romantic storyline. Then you have, you know, just your normal dialogue, but then mixed into that is some action. There's a bad guy. There's just all these different elements coming together. And there's something in there for everyone that's watching the show that at least one person can take away and go, oh, I enjoyed that. I related to that. I liked that. And I think, you know, overall, it does have that little bit of a feel-good factor as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's why, to me, it's such a great show. And, I just really, really always liked it. And look, it obviously has a lot of fun elements in there as well, which is always good.
Have you ever been in a Little Shop of Horrors?
I've not. It's always been on the bucket list, and look, who knows what the future holds. If it ever comes along, the opportunity, I would certainly audition for it. And you know,
there you go. Companies out there, take note.
Aaron Butler is available, desperately available.
Yeah. That's really interesting about Little Shop of Horrors. Whenever we always like research the musical beforehand, but this is how Little Shop of Horrors has actually become popular over the last years. Like there's been that 2023 revival. There's the off Broadway at the minute. It's because it is with community groups and school groups, so that's how it's getting its name. So it's kind of went from about 1986 to nothing.
I think it's because you can do it with as little, like the cast doesn't have to be hugely big. So if you're a small community group, you can do it, but then you can also size it up whatever you want, whatever way you want.
Yeah, it's got a lot of versatility in it, as you're pretty much saying there. Like it is able to be done by small companies, big companies, and I also think the roles are just very, very complementary roles of each other. Seymour, Audrey are very complementary of each other. The plant is it's a very nice blend of a show.
Yeah. Well, the premise of our podcast, Musical Lyrical Lingo, is about what the musical taught us. So has Little Shop of Horrors taught you anything about life, Aaron? Or was there any lyrics in the show that you were like, oh, I don't know what that is?
Yeah, look, I think one of the overarching things of it is that, the show deals with a lot of stereotypes and in different ways as well. I think when I was younger and when we're growing up, we have this image of America being like this beautiful land of the free, home of the great, rich, wealthy, a lot of people are successful there. It's the land of promise. It's all this. And what's great about Little Shop is that in the opening number, they go right into showing you that, hey, not all of America is like this, and this is what real America can be like. And from visiting different states myself, it always amazes me how this country that is so big and bold and, all these different things, it is successful, but it's got great levels of wealth, but also great levels of poverty and poor, like the homeless in the streets and things like that. Like that is real, as real as it gets. And I think that show, just going straight into that grittiness of America, is something way, way different instead of glamorizing it like it could have done in an opening number. You think an opening number of a show, it's supposed to be upbeat, happy, all this stuff. These guys are literally telling you, like, look how poor we are, and to start that show on a note like that is so brave, but it's real. And I think that's why it is different. It stands out. So I learned that lesson from it. I also think the dynamic between Seymour and Audrey is quite enjoyable because, you have the dentist here who's like the motorbike guy, the cool guy. This is the guy you want to be. This is the tough guy. This is the guy that, all males are told this is what you aspire to be. This is a man right here. Then you've got Seymour, who's just this little dorky nerd who just works in the plant shop. And it's like, even though he's such a nice and genuine person. And that's why Audrey likes him more and connects with him and it just goes to show that, stereotypes aren't always what they're cracked up to be. You don't always want to be the cool guy. You don't always want to be the guy that, is rocking about a motorcycle, because that's not the ideal version in someone else's mind. Everyone's ideal version of someone else is always different. One person's trash is another person's treasure. And I like the way that they deal with the sort of male stereotype in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, Skid Row pretty much takes the audience straight into the doom and gloom.
Yeah, and it taught me what Skid Row meant. Like, I had never heard of that expression before until I got to know the musical. I was like, oh, and then as you... for a lot of people, they hear the soundtrack first, or they hear the cast recording, and then they maybe see a visual element. They go and see a performance, or they see the film. So whenever you then see how it is shot, if you're watching the film, or see how it's on stage, and they are, as you said, they're sweeping the floor, they're picking up bits. She's talking about how her skirt's ripped, and you're like, oh yeah, and even how the lighting is. It's just all a wee bit more gritty compared to what you maybe are used to.
There's no glitter ball in that opening number, is there?
No, definitely not.
Do you have a preference with regards to the film or the musical? Like, which version do you prefer?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this one is that the film and the stage show aren't too different or too dissimilar from each other. What I love about the stage show is that how it can be done so simply with sets and things like that. You have basically the flower shop, and it can all turn around very easily. So I like the quickness of it. I like how it's it flows very quickly. There's not much like big breaks or big changes or anything like that. The movie was the first time I'd seen it, you know, and because of that, maybe I prefer the movie a little bit more. But again, maybe that's just because it was Rick Moranis' performance, because he is, you know, he was such a classic 80s movie actor, and he was so perfectly cast in that role, you know. But yeah, I also like the visuals of the movie, you know, the puppetry, and even when they do that number at Dadu, and they're doing the whole thing again. Like, there's so much more you can do visually in a movie, because, you know, you have the availability of the budget. You don't have to worry about changing sets and who's coming on and off stage. So you've got a little bit more. Even when like you have like the Ronettes dancing on the rooftop and things like that. Like, you got those elements felt more real in the movie, as opposed to on stage. So, but look, I would love to see. I've never seen it properly on Broadway or West End. I would love to see a proper, you know, production of it being done. I know it is on off-Broadway at the minute.
Yeah.
I was meant to go to New York sometime this year, but it hasn't happened yet. But maybe next year, if it's still floating about, I would definitely try to see it, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. Off-Broadway, it seems to be quite popular.
Yeah, and because
the
usually it doesn't happen off-Broadway. Usually something's off-Broadway and then it'll go on to Broadway, or it'll just disappear. But this is like, there's cast changes off Broadway, which is really rare. So that makes me think, are they trying to gear up to a big relaunch of it or something?
Or is it a case of, I kind of think it's a musical that works really well in a small theatre. Like, I don't know if it would be as effective in a really big house, like, you know, a really big auditorium. I don't know if they're trying to do that or not. What do you think of, because I think Regent Park Open Air Theatre in London, was it last season or maybe the season before, the summer seasons, they did Little Shop of Horrors, and the plant was actually a drag queen. Like, totally different version completely. And I thought that kind of a cool take on it, rather than, you know, just puppetry, you know.
Yeah,
I've seen a few different clips of that, and of people doing that before. I think it's a good idea, but I think you have to be careful with it, because you can go too far with it, or you can, like, you know, a little change like that isn't too bad, but I think if you keep doing more and more, there is, you know, you gotta retain a little bit of the classic elements of the show, because that's what makes the show what it is. There is room for innovation there, but I think, you know, it doesn't just go for Little Shop. I think any show that someone's directing, I do think you have to put your own stamp on it, but also you got to stay true to what made the show great in the first place, you know. But there's definitely ways to do the plant differently. I think, you know, putting a drag queen in there is definitely something a little bit fun, a little bit different. And there is such talented drag queens out there at the minute. RuPaul's Drag Race has showed us anything in life.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to see. Yeah.
Do you have a memory of being in a theatre watching a show and just being absolutely blown away by it?
Yeah, I do. Every time I've seen it, so I've seen the show 3 times, because I had a friend who was in the show, and he would always just get me free tickets to it every time it was in Dublin. But it was one. Yeah, it was once the musical. I don't know if you've ever seen it on stage, but there's a moment in the show. They have this little light rig above the stage that like translates every time that someone says something that's not in English. And one of the moments is when she's like saying goodbye to the guy in the show, and she says something to him, and it says like, I love you, but he doesn't understand that that's what she's saying. And then they just sort of take their separate ways. Every time I see that, there's the silence in the room is like deafening. Like, it's just like everyone is just so engrossed in that one moment. And I always get real choked up watching it, because you sort of, you get this connection watching the show and the music and the characters, and it always stood out to me as a really, really like trying to emotion, just the impact that it has, that silence, that moment is always really stuck with me. And so, yeah, I always just thought it's just one of those ones. It's a rare time whenever you can step back as you're watching a show, take a different perspective, and just look and go, that is actually beautiful. Like that the way they have done that, the way they've got that emotion across. Like, honestly, that's why theatre exists. That's why it's made to create those moments that when you're in the room, you're like, whoa, you're overwhelmed of almost like this magic coming over you.
Yeah, it's beautiful in its simplicity, isn't it? It's not a musical where they throw the kitchen sink at you with all the tricks and, all the big chorus numbers and stuff. It's subtle and simple. My friend was the associate movement director on once.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So she probably knows your friends, actually, because she worked on Dublin as well when it came over. But that number Gold and like the choreography and stuff, like
stunning.
The book of how many different places those chairs needed to move to was insane. I saw it. It's like color-coded stickers like everywhere. Just different world. But that's a great choice. It's a brilliant musical. Does your comedy ever like cross over into musical theatre, or your musical theatre ever cross into your comedy, Aaron?
Yeah, well, look, whenever I do a musical show, if there is comedic elements to the role of the character I'm playing, I'll absolutely implement that as much as I can. I remember doing Fame in 2010. Yeah. Fame. I'll get into this in a second, but we did. And I played Joe Vegas, who is a Mexican character, and if I do that today, I'll lose my livelihood. But back in 2010, a white guy can play a Mexican very easily. Okay, no one really cares. Different time back then. It was cute. You know what I mean? Nowadays, I'm in the Telegraph or I'm on the Nolan show if that happens. But but basically, I played the character Joe Vegas, and he's a real comedy character, and he sings a song about waking up with an erection and things like that, and it's all fun elements. So that was probably a time where I can think of when I brought comedy elements into a character. At the minute, I'm writing stand-up comedy all the time, and I'm always trying to come up with new ideas, new takes on things. And I've always tried to write a bit about being in a dance class, being the only guy in a dance class, being in a musical and being, a guy in a musical who's, to be honest, a lot of guys in musicals in the musical theatre world, they aren't that straight, but, trying to think of what the take and the spin is on that. And I've always found it really difficult. I could never quite pull the funny into it. I hope one day I can, and I hope one day, the routine comes, because I would love to do stuff about being in musicals and the experience in theatre and all this sort of stuff, but I just haven't quite cracked the code yet. But one day I will, and I'll have a whole routine about being in a musical for sure.
Can't wait. Yes.
Love it. I think as well, it's hard because musical theatre people get musical theatre people. There's sometimes like memes which go about, like I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, and there was like a little meme went about and was like, it's clear that you guys have never done an improvisation class where you needed to walk around in circles. And we were like, yeah, we did that all the time, like, why are you standing so close to me? Like, get away, all those little tricks that you learn whenever you are performing or auditioning or whatever. So you get it. And also we're really brittle, like, and and I are really brittle people anyway.
Speak for yourself.
As in, like, we don't sugarcoat it. If something's rubbish, we're going to tell you it's rubbish.
In a very nice way.
And so I think as well, whenever you're trying to, put that world across, sometimes it can come across as really like bitchy or...
I still haven't been involved in a show which Aaron's been in, because I choreograph Aaron, and I've done quite a few like shows in Belfast, and I still haven't appeared in the rehearsal room. Are you avoiding me?
Look, they do say, they say in your career that you'll only ever choreograph Aaron Butler 2 times in your career.
Okay.
Once on the way up and once on the way down. So you're still on the up, you've still to get there. But look, truthfully, I don't do that many shows, and maybe hopefully one day we will. I would like that. I would like to do another show. What it is and when it is, I'm not really sure. I'm so lucky and fortunate in my life. Look, I'm a very grateful person. I have so much to be grateful for. And the one thing is that as we get older, we have all these other life responsibilities, mortgage, kids, wife, husband, blah, blah, blah. You know, aside from the mortgage, I have none of those. I'm a very individual person. I'm a very free person, very open person. I'm also self-employed, so I have a lot of flexibility and versatility in my schedule. And so that does mean if a show comes along that I really want to sink my teeth into, usually I can make it work for me, you know? Whilst a lot of other people sort of, I think, get older and go, you know what? Because there is a lot of time and dedication that goes into doing one of these productions. Like, you spend like months rehearsing, you know, giving up your weekends, giving up your evenings, trying to fit everything in and all the other responsibilities you have in your life. So I understand why there's probably a lot of people as they get older kind of drop out of it because they're like, you know, I've got a 9-to-5 job and I just want to sleep when I get home. And I completely understand that too. But I'm so glad and so grateful that should the opportunity come along that I ever get a chance to do another show, I would definitely do it for sure. You know, I would love to do Jersey Boys, but the rights are never going to be out, I don't think, for a long time yet. But I love that show.
Yeah, you just have to find, 4 others? You got to find 3 or 4 other good boys.
Yeah. Maybe it could be a one-man show.
You could do all. There you go.
I don't know if I have the vocal range for those 4 harmonies, if I'm being honest, but you are very, very kind. Thank you.
Maybe we could put on a production of Little Shop of Horrors and then have Aaron as the dentist. And
guys, anything's possible.
I've never done Little Shop.
We've been involved in like little snippets of Little Shop, but never
little snippets of horrors.
Yeah. Some of them you could call that, to be fair, horror. We have many times on our podcast like really embarrassed ourselves with really awful things that have happened to us, like awful on-stage mishaps. Do you have any funny on-stage mishaps or embarrassing moments that you're brave enough to share?
Oh, yeah, like the most recent one was during West Side Story. What happened was on the opening night, I would always have to run out to be the first person out for a certain scene. So I would run at the back of the stage and I would run up to the front. They had just got the fog machine installed that night. So they fogged the stage for this scene because it's meant to be all like grimy and grungy. And no one realized that the fog created a layer of condensation on the stage. And so I run out full fucking pelt onto the stage, and I've never I've never fallen like this in my life. My leg went from under me and my arse just like planted the ground as hard as you could in front of 1,000 people at the Grand Opera House. And I just fucking like, it happened so quickly, but also so slowly at the same time. It was like, it's just like I fell so hard on my arse. It was insane. Like I've never heard a sound like, it was literally like, this big thud. And then I stood up and I was trying, you know, when you get the giggles because you're that nervous or you're that like shocked by something. I was trying to hold down the giggles while saying this like serious dialogue, and I was like, it was just a whirlwind of stuff happening. So that's happened to me before. I also, during the final evening of Grease, I thought it would be really not funny, but maybe I did think it was funny. What did I think at the time? Do you know what? Here's where my head was at the time. I was going. In my head, I was going, I'm never going to do a show again, because I was like already checked out. By that point, I was like, this is going to be my final show. Going to go out with a bang. Going to fucking have a great time, whatever. So I thought, for the end of Grease Lightning, why do I like cut a little snip in my t-shirt and I'll rip my t-shirt off like Hulk Hogan and I'll spin the t-shirt, throw it into the audience, and I'll be great. I did that, and you know, everyone's going, yo, cheering and stuff like that. But then I forgot that I have a scene straight after it. And so I had to be shirtless for the entire scene. And it was just like, it got awkward then. I was like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm going to start the Me Too movement by doing this.
Did you? You just...
I was just a young 23-year-old boy with high hopes of being a cool guy, and it totally backfired. And then I had to go backstage and be like, fuck, do I have another t-shirt? Like, I had to find another white t-shirt and so on. As I really did. Like, that just shows you the level of maturity at the time. I was like, I'll just cut my t-shirt off. And I'm like, you have another hour of this show to do. What are you doing, you idiot?
You were in the moment. You were in the moment.
Oh, you're live theatre at its finest, baby.
And you certainly, of all the people you don't mess with in the musical theatre world, wardrobe mistresses are not the people you mess with. Like, did you not have a tough time with your wardrobe mistress after you ripped the t-shirt?
No, well, luckily it was one of my own t-shirts. It wasn't the wardrobe t-shirt. Yeah. Oh, I would never have done it if it was the wardrobe mistress t-shirt, because you are completely right.
Rented.
I'd rather fucking cook a bad meal in Gordon Ramsay's restaurant than fucking like upset a wardrobe mistress. You know, that's the level we're at with that. Like, so yeah, it was. But I remember doing that. I don't think I've had any other bad. Oh, the best one I remember is it wasn't me, but I was side stage for it. So I was in Jesus Christ Superstar, and I was waiting in the wings to go on for the final bow. And you know what? Jesus Christ Superstar is the very final act. No spoilers for anyone, by the way. He dies. And when Jesus dies on the cross, you know, the guys carry him off. One of the guys carrying him off was in these leather trousers that had the smallest rip in them. As he was carrying Jesus off, it's meant to be a very somber moment, by the way. The audience are in silence. The music's all dun, 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 whatever. He's carrying him off. The leather trousers split even more. The guy carrying Jesus falls. Keep in mind, Jesus has his eyes closed and can't see anything that's happening. All Jesus feels is falling to the ground. He's like, why am I falling? And the guy carrying Jesus, pants split open. He falls with Jesus. And then instead of like, you know, just getting up and slowly lifting Jesus again, he lays on the ground and just slowly drags himself off the stage like a snail, like a slug, as if like, if I do this, the audience aren't going to see me doing this. I'm like, and it was, I fucking get my ass off at that. Like,
that is brilliant. Do you know, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, that's the beauty of live theatre, though. Bloopers happen, and bloopers are sometimes the best part. Like I record sometimes, like, because I do video production too. I've recorded a few shows here and there about over the last few years, and some of the best moments of them are when you see people make little mistakes and dance, or you see them like be in a position they're not meant to be in, or they forget a table that they were meant to bring on. Those are some of the best parts in a show.
Yeah, I'm just glad to hear that I'm not the only person to have fallen on my ass in the middle of the Opera House stage. But that was at the beginning of that show, wasn't it? How were you for the rest of the show, where you're like dancing like a maniac?
Do you know, it's weird. I don't know if it's the adrenaline or like maybe I just got super, super lucky and I fell on a part of my body that like just can take a big bunch of force. But guys, I've got 2 watermelons back here. Okay, I'm packing heat. There's a reason. There's a reason the 60-year-old tap dance class ladies like a good look. You know what I mean? I landed on a good fresh set of airbags, and it was I was able to be okay. I'm very lucky in the fact that, you know, people say as you get older, you know, you start to feel more aches in your body, or you start to, you know, I have no injuries. I've no, touch wood, you know, I'll go out today and I'd probably fall and hurt myself or whatever, but I've never had a leg injury. I've never had a back injury. I've never had doused myself in udder milk or whatever it's called. And so, like, touch wood, that may long continue. Maybe I should start doing yoga just to make sure that I keep everything supple.
Give it a couple of years, Aaron. Give it a couple of years.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. That's what I'm afraid of. But for now, we're living a great life, guys, and that's the important thing.
Exactly. It's been just brilliant you joining us today. So there's no musicals on the horizon for you at the moment, but what are you up to? What's coming next for you?
Next for me is, so I'm currently in meetings at the minute because I filmed a comedy special in April there, and we're in talks with a few different TV companies to see if they want to distribute it. It'll either end up somewhere on TV, and if not on TV, it'll end up on the internet somewhere by the end of this year. That's really exciting for me. That's a real goal that I want to do in my life, and I'm super, super pumped about it. Aside from that, I also play the SSE Arena for the first time next month. I'm doing support for, I'm doing 6,000 people. It's going to be insane. So I'm doing that. And apart from that, we've got also, I do the last year here, we started the first ever, self-funded panel show that we did in the Waterfront Hall in June, and we sold it out. So we're hoping to sell out the one that's coming up in Christmas time. And so, it's just a lot of good things happening. I take each day and I just have as much fun as I can.
Brilliant. And if any of our listeners want to follow you a wee bit more, where can they find you on the socials, Aaron?
Aaron Butler online across everything. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Grindr, Tinder, just all the great apps that people use. And
is there any wee videos of you tap dancing on any of those platforms?
There's not yet, but look, maybe after this I should. Maybe I should put up a little Book of Mormon routine for you. Turn it off.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
I would
maybe
look
you should
forward
come
to seeing
back
that.
and chat to us whenever we do our Book of Mormon episode.
Yeah, because we haven't done Book of Mormon yet.
Sure. Guys, count me in. I'll anytime you need me, I'm here for you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Butler.
Oh man, I'm still getting traumatic memories about it. But great show nonetheless. And guys, thank you so much for having me. It's been class, and hopefully we do this again sometime.
Absolutely, can't wait.
Yes.
Until next time, Aaron, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kisses and hugs, guys. Kisses and hugs. I don't know what this is, but I'm doing it.
That was brilliant.
So funny.
It was great listening.
Legend.
It was great listening back to it as well, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Really brilliant. So go check Aaron Butler out. He is a very funny guy. Those grannies that had me in stitches, absolute stitches. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this week's episode. We're not going to keep you any longer because it is a long one, but that chat with Aaron Butler was too good to edit, so we've left it all in.
It's all there, baby.
Full disclosure. So next week we'll
come back.
I might come back.
You're coming back. If I had to come back for episode 2, you're coming back for this.
Why do you keep bringing the episode 2 up?
Because it was a terrible musical choice.
Not as terrible as the musical we're looking at next week. It's a Rusty Owl banger. So, until...
A bit like him.
Oh, that's it. You're on your own next week. You do not insult me like that and get away with it. I'm gone. See you. Bye.